You're now tuned into Mic Check Waifu. Hollow and Tell, is that you?
Mic check, waifu. Nox, is that you?
Yo, what's up, you guys? I'm Nox from Project Manga. Just want to say thanks for having me on here, you guys.
Hey,
super excited to get to talk about what we're going to talk about tonight. But yeah, Project Manga. We're a YouTube channel. It's me and 3 others, and we review Weekly Shonen Jump every week.
There goes.
Well, thank you, man. Yeah, that's basically our show, man. It's Project Manga everything. You can find us on Twitch, on Apple, Spotify.
Yeah, it's gonna be live because this is episode 94 of Mic Check Waifu. As always, it's brought to you by Lube Complex. Make sure y'all go to lubecomplex.com and use that offer code waifu to save on your entire cart. It's also brought to you by don'ttalkshop.com. I'm wearing a nice Axis branded hoodie from Don't Talk Shop. Use that offer code waifu15 to get access to all of their merch there. And I want to thank our Patreon producers, Aaron Brown, Connor, Explicitly, Monique Williams, and Treesus. Thank y'all so much for producing this and many other episodes of Mic Check Waifu. We appreciate you as always. And as y'all know, I'm always joined by my brother, Mr. Telliano. What's going on, Tel? How you feeling?
Always good. You know, I'm trying to figure out how to sell a $60,000 Sony TV.
What the? Hello? 60,000.
It ain't going in my house. I'm trying to get it in somebody else's house.
Oh, you talking on that Best Buy drip? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
What, you got this from the movie theater?
I know, right?
It's 98 inches, 8K.
Oh my God!
Jesus,
Ain't even no content for it, but we gonna try and get it in somebody's house.
60,000.
What's up, y'all?
What a way to start the show. This is a special episode. We decided to bring Nox on because we knew from the moment that Jujutsu Kaisen started. Okay, we've been following Nox since the inception of Mic Check Waifu and Project Manga and everything. He's been the only one I've seen on the timeline boasting the show well before it was even announced. So
I've been in it for a minute, man.
Yeah, and I'm like, what is this show that he's always putting these steals up that just looks insane? It looks so insane. Good. So I'm like,
hell yeah.
When the show was announced and we were watching it, and I mean, me and Taylor share our thoughts on the show, I'm sure alongside with Nox, that it's incredible. And I'm like, this would be the perfect time to get him on an episode of Mic Check Waifu. Now, we don't do guests often, but when we do, it's a special occasion. So That's why we had to make this one special. So today we're going to be talking a lot of manga, okay? Because obviously that's what Nox does. Project Manga Podcast, the Weekly Shonen Jump. Check them out. All their links will be in the show notes and in the description of this video on YouTube. Make sure you check them out there. First and foremost, what got you into manga?
What got me into manga?
What was the first thing that just said, come here, Nox, read me?
Well, I've been reading comic books since those are like my first memories, you know, like comic books all around me. And since I learned how to read, I've been reading comic books ever since then. So then, I don't know, I found anime through Toonami.
Yeah.
And then I was like, holy shit, what's going on with this? This is different, you know what I mean? And then I found out that everything is based off of like comic book source material, but
right.
I didn't really know where it was at. Found out that there's like a little like hidden section tucked away at my local bookstores the whole time right under my nose. You know what I'm saying? I had no idea that shit was there. But the first manga that I ever read, my brother actually had a volume of Lone Wolf and Cub. And he just had that. Lone Wolf and Cub is a samurai story. Super old school.
Yeah.
You could tell as soon as you see the art that it's like 1960s, you know, like type beat, you know what I mean? Yeah. But he had like physical copy of that because he's in the army and he like does all this like world traveling and whatnot. So I remember he had a bunch of manga actually. Once I found out that he was into it, he had like Initial D and things like that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I would just, you know, thumb through like that shit to kind of like get a look at it. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on here. I don't know how to read this shit because it was obviously like right to left. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I'm cool with my Superman and my Spider-Man. I'll get this shit on the TV. You know what I mean? And then I'm watching anime, and then eventually it gets to a point where I find out about sites like like Manga Panda, you know what I mean, and things like that, and then it was the floodgate was open after that. So
sick. So what was the first manga you ever read? I'm surprised I never asked you this, and we've been doing the show for damn near 2 years.
This is this is gonna sound kind of funny since you know me so well, but the first manga I ever read was actually Naruto. And then after that is kind of when I started going back into other stuff and, you know, dipping my toes in the stuff, because, you know, my first anime was Ronin Warriors.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, Naruto was the first manga I actually read.
Man, and I'm so brand new into it. Like I literally just picked up one. What was it, last year? I think the first one, because I'm the slice of life guy here on My Check Waifu.
Oh, word.
So the first one I picked up was it? It was no. Did I read Kaguya-sama before Mission Yozakura?
Mission Yozakura family was the first one.
That's it.
Yozakura is Slice of Life?
No. I thought it was the Slice of Life. Love is War. Love is War. But it was actually Mission Yozakura family, which is live. I'm still reading now.
I haven't read the Yozakura family. I get that recommended all the time.
As you should.
Yeah, as somebody that's brand new into it, I'm sucked in. Like it's incredible.
Yeah, I hear nothing but good things, man.
Yeah, we picked it up at the start, the inception of this podcast, actually, around like October or so when I think it launched, right?
Yeah, like we picked up on the first chapter. It was like, yeah, we're gonna start reading this.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
Man, and I've been trying to get into it a little bit more, and again, we're gonna get into that a little bit later. But what makes manga for you so attractive? Obviously, the comic book shit was where it all started, and yes, comic books do give you that feeling like you're watching a movie. But what is it the same deal with manga too?
For me, manga, what makes it so. What made it so interesting to me was the aesthetic, the black and white, you know, like because like what I was used to before was that like you'd get a couple pages of black and white, you know, or something like that, and then eventually you'd go into colors. So I'm thumbing through these comic books and I'm like, when is it gonna go to color? You know what I mean? Right. And it never did. And I was like, okay, so this is just how it is. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, well, why is it like that? You know what I mean? And I started looking into the history of manga, and I find out about how like after World War II, and we bombed them. They didn't have it crushed their economical situation. Shit. You know what I mean? And they couldn't afford media like television and movies, so they just drew comic books, and they couldn't even afford colors, so it was all black and white. Like I'm learning all of this shit, and I'm like, this is crazy. Yeah, I was like, this is crazy. So I was instantly just like hooked off of just the history of manga, and like it's so different from Western comics because the action is so much more dynamic, I feel like, and it feels a lot more dynamic at surface level because of that black and white aesthetic. I feel like that contrast really jumps at you, and they do have a way different approach to action, like paneling and like illustrative like composition of their comic book pages. You know what I mean? Like these angles that I'm seeing for the first time, and like these impact illustrations. It's like different. You don't really get impact like that in the West. Like there are definitely times where like the Hulk will steal off somebody and it's drastic, but like by and large in Western comic books, when someone punches someone, it's like a still image, you know what I mean? And there's onomatopoeia that lets you know he just got his shit rocked. But like in manga, it feels a lot more kinetic, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot more emphasis put on the connection and the shockwave and the after effect that, you know, and shit like that. So it was just a completely different looking thing. And I was just like, I need to know everything about it. I just completely, when I was finally ready, you know what I mean? Like once I found like Manga Panda and all the free sites and I could just take my pick, I was like, this is the coolest shit I've ever seen. Yeah.
It's funny you say that because there's a page in Mission Yozakura family where they do, you know how samurais do that thing in movies where they draw the sword real quick and slice people and put it back. There's a scene where he's facing, like the main character's facing off against somebody and they do the sword draw and the full page is that transition from him doing that slice.
Lovely.
And I'm like, holy shit, I actually see this right now. And that's when I'm like, okay, manga's dope, because I was always the type, I just want to watch it. I just want to watch it. Now I'm
wow, that's in Yozakura family, what you just said?
Yeah,
dude, I'm a big sword guy, like EI Jutsu, like Bato Jutsu, like what you just explained with the quick like sheath and resheath shit. Like I love that. I love that shit in manga. And you just described something that I like look for in manga.
That panel had me gone. I'm like, okay, this shit's live, man. This shit is so live.
So cool.
It's also a really good point for the artists and whatnot to really like go all out on that art style, right? Yep. Like that page is a full page of drama, even though it's like it might not even be a drama series, but it feels super dramatic and and the emphasis is really implied in that scenario. So I love that. Like I remember one of my favorite comic book panels that did that was actually Sonic the Hedgehog, where they first introduced Shadow. And they gave us a whole page on Shadow because at first he was this black figure. We didn't know who he was. And they gave us this whole page of Shadow. But they did a similar thing in Twin Star Exorcist where they introduced the main villain. And essentially he's standing there and you kind of just get an outline of the character. And it's super dramatic. Like it's not like the entire panel, like the whole 2 pages, but it's that entire one page is the main character or the villain. And it's just that drama, that contrast, like you were talking about earlier, just really puts the emphasis on that.
Yeah, it took me a while to get used to the reading of it, though, because and it's not necessarily the page thing. The page thing isn't really the problem. It was the bubble following it I had trouble with at first, because sometimes the way it was stacked, it was so hard for me to understand at first. And again, y'all, remember, I'm brand new to this shit, like literally last year. So
it takes a little bit,
I had to get adjusted, but when I did, I was in it, man. And I'm still in it. So
nice.
Let's start with this, man. What you reading right now that got you sucked in?
What am I reading right now? I'm on a big cyberpunk kick.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I've been and we have a book club in our Patreon. And one of the manga that, I mean, I really don't have too much time to read a lot outside of what we review. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then our book club is like kind of like a way where if I haven't read something, then I can just like read whatever is up on the book club's list. Yeah. And then like that's when I get new content, really. You know what I mean? So we're reading something in our book club right now called Ultra Heaven. Ultra Heaven, bro, it's tight, dude. It's like really it's really high quality art, man. And it's coming out of Comic Beam, which is a seinen magazine. You know what I mean? But it's old. It's finished. It's been finished. It was back in like 2001. But it's basically a dystopian future cyberpunk story, you know what I mean? Like high technology, low quality of life, you know what I mean? Like everyone, it's about drug addiction is really what it is. And it's basically, it's Requiem for a Dream, if in manga form, in a near distant future or in a near future. You know what I mean? I love that. It's tight. It's super
Requiem
tight.
for a Dream was crazy.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite movies too. You know what I mean? So
my god,
but it's totally that vibe. Yeah, it's totally that vibe. The main character is just like chasing dragons. You know what I mean? Like trying to find the next big high. And like drug addiction is so interwoven into society that like. Like everyone just gets it. It's like they know that motherfuckers are going to be on drugs, so they come out with, you know, more drugs that help people deal with drugs. You know, like glorified commercials for things like Suboxone. Yeah, you know what I mean. But like in their own little trippy version of Suboxone in their future world. It's tight, dude. It's super tight. If you're into cyberpunk, It's called Ultra Heaven.
Ultra Heaven.
Oh yeah, I need that.
It's really good.
Yeah, we taking notes to learn what we should be reading. Ultra Heaven.
Yes.
All right, man. I might have to subscribe to the Patreon and join that book club. Patreon.com/Project Manga, of course. Or
that's it.
OFC. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Just Project Manga. Just Patreon.com/Project Manga. Yeah, pull up, bro. Pull up, man.
I might have to, because that sounds dope. And again, for somebody that's new, fun. That's gonna be live.
Yes, sir.
Ultra Heaven. All right. Well, I've been reading. It's a webtoon. I know y'all got Project Webtoon too.
We do, yeah.
I like that one too. Solo leveling is what was
nice.
literally destroying me weekly, man.
Dude, okay, so you're caught up, right?
Yes. Oh yeah.
I'm super far behind, but like I've only read like the first like maybe 5 chapters of season 2.
Oh,
but like yeah, no, but dude, Solo Leveling is the one though, bro. Like that's one of the bingiest reads
easy,
that I think
man.
I've ever had. Like I think I read everything. I think I read all the content in one sitting
Dude,
that was available at the time.
That's how it was for us because we said it. We had like a book club in our podcast where we would just read a certain amount of chapters per week.
Yeah.
So we started off with like I think what was it, 10 or something, like some ridiculously low number.
Nah, I think the first time we started off, we hit like 50. No, we did a lot, and then we slowed down. We was like, okay, let's go down to like 25 chapters. We zooming through this too much.
It was so addicting.
10 chapters of Solo Leveling. Good luck, dude. That's like eating one Pringle.
Right. It's gone in a snap, man. I'm like, man, I couldn't do it. I couldn't put it down. I was addicted.
You can't.
And
it's that creator is so like has just mastered the formula of turning the page, keeping you turning the page. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not even like really cliffhangers that are really what's used to keep you turning that page. It's just a cold-blooded ass main character, and surrounded by amazing concepts and beautiful art.
Man,
I'm here the whole time.
Right.
Boom, boom, boom. And the progression of his strength is handled so beautifully,
so perfect, so much character growth, and that development is almost bar none some of the best I've seen in anything I've. Well, again, I ain't got that much under my belt, but anything I've read, like seriously, book wise or other,
it's tight, man. It's definitely very. I don't know. I guess you'd probably classify it as a meathead series. I mean, I guess that's fine, but it's cracked that code, man.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
It's way deeper than I think meathead.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
because I guess like as a video game enthusiast, like people who love video games, like I love when they do the breakdown of like his skills and abilities and how each ability leveled up and you know that kind of stuff. That just hits a whole nother level. And like I don't know, like it definitely. I guess sometimes it does feel a little meatheaded because you just want to see action, and then other times you're like, I love the little details that they throw in there to make it just overall just too dope.
Shout out to the administrator. Fucking
to Tell's point about like how good the video game aspect of it feels, like you could really tell that this guy is a video game fan that wants to incorporate like actual video game stuff into his story and not just, you know, it doesn't feel like just arbitrary video game. Shoehorned video game concepts. You know what I mean? Like this dude actually lives this life. You know what I'm saying?
A big RPG fan, I could tell.
Yeah.
As one myself, you could definitely tell. And in this other one, that's literally almost a carbon copy of Solo Leveling. It's called The Player That Can't Level Up.
Okay. It's like if they took the synopsis of like Solo Leveling and then just like spun it backwards and made it the title.
It's literally almost the exact same thing. Like from the way the world is set up to portals to having a certain amount of people being gifted and able to level up and stuff like that. But it's literally this player who's stuck at level 1 and cannot level up, and everybody else can just perfectly fine. But he gained access to these swords called I think they call them personalities or something like that, but they're so fucking strong. It's crazy. They give him the ability to be extremely powerful. So this level 1 character get these powerful weapons, but everybody just sees him as level 1. So it goes through a nice little progression story in that too. Again,
I like that.
It's super interesting.
That's a really cool idea.
Right. Just imagine you not being able to level up. You go into this one part of the dungeon that you just can't get past, but everybody else passed you. So he ended up becoming something called a tutor, where he just has to like train newbies in this one little section. And then once they get past level 1, they pass him up and he just stays there. It's super interesting. It's a good little story. Again, it's not as consistent as Solo Leveling, so it's not weekly. I think chapter 21 is out now, but that's been out for like 3 weeks. So,
oh no,
one of those situations.
Gotta hope a translation team cares enough to hop on, and because there might even be more chapters than 21.
Yeah, you're right.
And they're just not translated. It could be a situation like that. You never know.
Yeah. What about you, Tel? What you reading?
I got One Piece. I got Attack on Titan. I got Twin Star Exorcist.
That's the shit.
Phantom Seer, Undead Unluck. I gotta start typing
Undead Unluck. Dude, Phantom Seer is getting axed apparently.
When Polo sent me that, I was a little like, damn.
I was so salty, dude. I was literally just hyping it on my show. Like, I was like, dude, it's starting to feel really good. I think it's safe from the axe. I literally just said that last week.
But it looks so good, and the story just really, really started to pick up. And it's like, are you serious?
And it's selling really well. It's a very weird situation.
Yeah, what happened?
No idea.
I just sent him Kiko's tweet. I'm like, well, what? Because I know he was reading it.
I'm hearing all types of shit, bro. I don't know what happened because it doesn't make sense that it got axed based on how well it was doing.
Right.
Yeah, like after Black Clover sales plummeted, and I was like, well, Black Clover ain't getting axed. Yeah. So like, you can let Phantom Seer go.
Jeez, Black Clover. Yikes. Tell trying to have that whole fan base come at us again.
I'm not. You know, I read
man.
Black Clover. I just haven't read the last like 5 chapters.
Yeah, that's something else. I can't believe you read as much as you did do.
I got to keep up.
If I wasn't reviewing it, I'd probably go into a lull of 5, 6, 7 chapter streaks where I just let it build. Because Black Clover feels so much better to me on a binge than it does weekly nowadays. When we first started our show, it was a lot different. Yeah. But like nowadays, inside of this Spade arc and like what it's been doing the last year and a half, year and a half, it's like, man, like if I didn't have to review this shit weekly, I definitely would probably let it stack. Yeah.
Man, so as far as like something for new people, what would you recommend new people of the manga world, including myself and including at Crystal Light on Twitter? She's new into manga too. What would you recommend for somebody like that that's getting into it?
Recommendations are like something that I like think is like really important, whether it's like comic books or manga, like when you're talking about new people, right? Because like that, the strength of a good recommendation when someone is like a real, virgin or novice or whatever term you want to use to something, it's like it makes or breaks that. It can make or break that entire experience. So, thanks. I mean, like, if someone were to approach me personally and be like, I'm new to manga, what do you got for me? I'd be like, well, how much time do you have? Because we have to have a conversation right now. You know what I mean?
See. I like
but
that.
Like, just for the sake of this conversation, I mean, like if it's an American person, you know what I mean? That's asking, and I don't know anything about them, then like I don't know, you think about like what American people are into normally, crime dramas, Game of Thrones, you know what I mean? So like thinking of things like that, I'd probably be like, read Death Note, you know what I mean? Right. Or I'd be like read Vinland Saga, you know what I mean? Like, if you're into Game of Thrones, read Vinland Saga. If you're into crime dramas like fucking Law and Order and shit, read fucking Death Note. Probably maybe Promised Neverland even too. Like would probably be a good one.
That's a good point.
And then obviously
Western
audiences are into superheroes and shit, so I'd probably be like One Punch Man or like My Hero Academia. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. If I'm not gonna have a conversation with you, I'd probably recommend like one of those 4.
That's a good way of looking at it, because the whole conversation piece is big. Like you said, like if you don't know who that person is, you can't recommend something like I wouldn't even say you can't even recommend something like Mission Yozakura Family to everybody, because it does take a bit to get into, like it's not slow by any means, but it does take a little bit of understanding of how manga works in order to get how that is portrayed. So it's
like Hunter x Hunter is like my favorite anime, or like one of my favorite manga even too, but I would never I would never be like, yo, you've never watched anime, you've never read manga. Here's a deconstruction of the shonen genre, for your first thing. It's like you're not going to be able to appreciate it if you don't have that history of shonen storytelling there. So it's like, it's things like that. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people, see recommendations as like a way to flex their tastes, you know what I mean? And it's like, you can't, I can't, like I would never, just because Hunter x Hunter is my favorite anime and I want to push that agenda, be like, you never seen anime before? Watch Hunter x Hunter because it's my favorite and I want people to like it. You know what I mean? Like it's not that easy in my opinion. So
the beautiful thing about what you said is that like people flex their recommendations, and the really cool thing about a recommendation is that the recommendation should have honestly nothing to actually do with you.
Exactly. People want to always make it about them, and it's like, dude, it's like, why are you so confident about it? Like, you don't even know me. Like you just want to be like, this is my favorite, you'll love it, and it's like, why?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, because Yeah, and it's like, hey, you know, if you're someone who if you're that confident about your favorites and you think that it's something that anybody would love, then that's a little bit different, you know, of a story. But it's like, if we're gonna dip a toe into the comic book world, you know what I mean? I saw on the fucking timeline, someone was like, I'm trying to get into comics. What should I read? And someone was like, The Boys, and I'm like, you know, and I'm like, come on, man, like just no information at all, just The Boys. No information about this person at all. You don't even look at their account, right? And you're just like, The Boys.
Not even the banner. You just said The Boys.
Yeah, and it's like, really? Yeah, you know, like there's hella trigger warnings in that shit, son.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man.
You went for a ride if you just read that one first.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, like, just real quick, I want to say something funny. I haven't started watching Invincible yet. And
oh man,
I saw this picture on the time of this video where he went off on this group, and I'm just like, yo, what the fuck did I just watch?
Yeah, I'm sad that you saw that on the timeline, because like that's like something that, man, that's like a big spoiler, honestly, going into Invincible, because Invincible is very much a deconstruction of superhero comic books. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it sets it up very Sky High, very My Hero Academia. My dad's the biggest superhero in town. I don't have my powers yet. I'm in high school. It sets it up like that, and then it subverts it with like a drastic twist, like what you saw on the fucking timeline by the end of the episode.
And Steve said, laugh my ass off, and the smiley face. I'm like, I don't know what I just watched. Now I know that everybody was telling me to watch it, and I should have just said,
yeah,
I should have just watched it, bro. I know how Twitter works.
Twitter's too ruthless. Yeah,
literally, I never get spoiled by anything on Twitter. And then Invincible comes out and I get spoiled. I'm like, yo, I'm a little salty.
Now, see, I went on the timeline and I've read Invincible, the comic book, way back in the day. You know what I mean? But the show just came out, and I thought of like a funny tweet where I would be like, I'm only 10 minutes into the first episode of Invincible, and these niggas are already better than Scott Snyder's Justice League. You know what I mean? Is what I said. You know, and then I knew, you know, that by the end of the fucking episode, they're all gonna die. You know what I mean? So then like I quote retweeted like 40 minutes later, like, just finished the episode. Whoops. You know what I mean? Because it's funny. But then like this motherfucker is like 3 minutes after I made the first tweet saying like, well, they all die at the end of the episode. Yeah. So, and I'm like, nigga, like, come on, man. What if I actually hadn't seen it? You know what I'm saying? Like,
back. Yo, it happens all the time with My Hero stuff for me, man. Every time I'm scrolling, just scrolling our Mic Check Waifu Twitter, I'm just scrolling, instant My Hero spoiler. I'm like, well, fuck. Yeah. There it is. A non-reader of My Hero.
I'm so happy you haven't been spoiled by some of the other stuff though on My Hero.
Yeah, that's true.
You still got some stuff that's not spoiled for you yet.
Thank goodness. Man. I'm gonna try to keep it that way.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and throw in a couple of Twitter questions real quick if y'all don't mind.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good one. Now, oh shit. Guess what? We got a question from y'all. All right, so Panda from Worst Gen Podcast.
Hey.
She said, would y'all ever read or watch Boy Love? First question.
Just off the title, lost me. I'm sorry. I'm that, like, I'm such a bad like book cover judge.
So this is actually a genre.
Oh wait! Is that?
Like, was it called Yaoi or something?
Yaoi?
Like that?
Okay. I never heard it like, you know, with the English translation.
She BL, but I know what she meant, like boys love.
Oh, okay. Yaoi? Nah, I'm probably good on that personally.
Yeah, same. I'm cool.
I'm good on a lot of genres though. Don't think it's because, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, like I'm just.
I know I'm you're so not a big fan of slice of life.
Yeah.
I've actually read a one book, and I've actually
Wait, you said you read what? You got cut off because Discord is great.
I read one Boy Love called Boyfriends as a webtoon, and it wasn't that bad. Now I have watched other slice of life or read other slice of life too. I can't remember exactly what their names were, but I think I prefer reading slice of life than I do watching it.
Interesting.
So I think the whole slice of life thing hits me better as a read than a watch.
Not for me.
Okay.
Another part of
you're new, so
that's true. Good point. Another question. She says, "What's your favorite non-shonen manga right now?"
right now?
Yeah.
Ultra Heaven.
Yeah, that's
yeah. Oh, I mean, shit. I'm reading it right now. Like I said, dude, I'm like super big on like cyberpunk. I found this amazing documentary series on YouTube in my recommended from a channel called Indigo Gaming, where he does like the origins of cyberpunk and shit. It's like peak YouTube production quality. Jeez, like I've never seen like such a good like crew? YouTube documentary before. Yeah. So I just like after that, I just like all the cyberpunk video games, movies. I'm rewatching Blade Runner and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like when we get on like Ultra Heaven, I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm eating this shit up, dude. Because I don't really know of too many cyberpunk comic books. You know what I mean? So I know of a ton of books and movies, but like comic books, I feel like I haven't really found that area. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when I find one, I like really, you know what I'm saying? Right. I'm gonna jump on it. Yeah,
I feel that. Yeah. Me, I don't really have one. So,
the only non-shonen like manga I've actually read is Claymore. Ooh. And I didn't actually finish it. I had like 20 chapters to finish, so I'm actually going to finish that this year.
Interesting.
I've been recommended Claymore a ton, especially like recently. I feel like in the last year, I've gotten a ton of Claymore recommendations.
It's really good.
I heard.
Sweet
and dark.
Yeah. Love that. The art reminds me of, I know it's not on the level of Kentaro Miura, but it from the panels that I've seen, it reminded me a lot of like Golden Age Berserk art.
It does look a lot like that, and it gets very dark like that. Not as dark in my opinion, but it's still very dark.
No. Another question she has, she should be lowing up on the tweet. She says a horror manga recommend. And she says, I would recommend, man, I'm so bad with these Japanese names. I'm sorry. Zekuyu Gaiyu? I'm not. It's spelled Zekkyou, Gakkyu.
Zekio Gakyu.
Yeah, there it is. That one.
I've never heard of this.
Me either.
Looks good. I'm not too big into horror.
No,
I've been when I'm finally ready to do the horror thing, I'm going to jump right into Junji Ito and probably just read everything that they've ever done.
Even watching Junji Ito was. Poof.
Yeah, because he did some. He like made a deal with Adult Swim or some shit recently, didn't he? Yeah, I heard about that actually.
Super unique. I'll tell you that.
Is it good?
It's interesting. I wouldn't call it good, but it's interesting.
What is it, like an anthology series, or did they do like Uzumaki or something? Okay,
yeah, they did the anthology thing, and it's
that's tight.
It's not too bad. It's just it looks so crazy. And then she says maybe it's just me, but I've been seeing a lot of disappointment in some of the endings to popular manga. What do y'all think? Where do you think they fell?
We did have we wanted to talk about Promised Neverland eventually.
Yeah, I was gonna say Promised Neverland, but see, like it's like a case by case thing. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of it could just be that it was like a legitimately bad ending, and then you can have analysts come in and like talk about like what they believe is objectively shitty about it with whatever metric that they use. But then you'll have a lot of surface level people that like I feel like it's inside of Twitter, especially because that is undeniably the most toxic app when it comes to these kind of fandoms. You know what I mean? Like you'll have people that are just the kind of people that you can't satisfy. You know what I mean? Like, and it feels like it's a contrarian thing a lot of the time. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like everybody likes this thing. I wasn't properly exposed. Let me like skim through it or wiki it so that I can like join in on this conversation and talk about how much I don't like it because I wasn't there when the fun started is what a lot of it feels like, you know, to me. And of course that's a lot of assumptions being made, but at the same time, it's like you can feel that there's something very wrong with a lot of the reviews,
like a lot of hypocrisy
on social media. Yeah,
right. So for me, I did watch, and this is just going off of a YouTube video I saw of somebody, because I didn't read the Promised Neverland manga, but I did watch that terrible anime adaptation.
I haven't seen second season. I didn't go anywhere near that shit, bro. I saw stills and I was like, what's going on?
I don't even read the manga, and I was so fucking upset about this. I'm like, what is this? What is happening? Come to find out, they gave us a PowerPoint of 140 chapters at the end. So I was blown.
No, it's bad. It's really bad.
It's so bad. But apparently, though, even the manga ending for Promised Neverland wasn't, from what I see in just his YouTube video, super biased. He wasn't a fan of the Promised Neverland manga either. But he said it just didn't feel right. and I heard that this was the sentiment for a lot of Promised Neverland manga readers, that a lot of it seemed rush, maybe.
So I would say my personal opinion from the Promised Neverland manga is that the ending didn't bother me so much. What bothered me more was the precursor to the ending, kind of what they did here, right? Like after Goldie Pond to like, which Goldie Pond you don't even get to see. They skip that whole arc. Mm-hmm. And then they kind of go to explaining what Norman has been going through and all that stuff. Like some of the things just get thrown at you out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like in that PowerPoint, they show the queen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. It's an actual PowerPoint, dude.
It's a
bad,
slideshow,
bro.
It's a literal slideshow.
It's a literal slideshow for like 5 minutes of like 140 chapters worth of content, with music playing in the background. It isn't even good music at that. But they show the queen, right? But in the manga, the queen gets more detail. But they just start throwing stuff in on the queen. Like she has 2 cores instead of 1. And, and she has also ingested the evil blood and she has these special powers. But we also never hear about the queen before this.
Yeah.
So it was like, we got probably like 8 chapters of the queen, but it was like, where did she come from before this? Like we had no idea the queen had been running the show. And then all the other villains they introduced in like Goldie Pond had no like real significance in that part. But like, the ending itself to me, like the actual resolution to me, I thought was really good because I feel like in this story, there can't be something truly happy. So like for me, like how it ended in the anime was way too happy. It was like they went through all of this struggle. Like the promise that Emma made in the manga to me felt more realistic because a god isn't going to just give you exactly what you want after you're taking away everything from its people. Everything that its people has loved if you're just food to them.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
especially a god that like is really actually kind of being depicted as like a devil, especially in the sense of like ironic, the irony inside of agreements made.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like they're kind of playing into that, Judeo-Christian devil lore
100%.
of like kind of like how they made fun of it in like Futurama, you know what I mean? With like Fry and like the hands and shit, you know what I mean? Like that whole theme of that episode, I feel like is kind of like what they're leaning into with this Promised Neverland, like demon god that they had in the manga, you know what I mean? So I 100% agree with what Tell was saying, basically is what I mean by that. Thanks. But, as far as Promised Neverland goes, I haven't seen the anime. I heard it's only 6 episodes for season 2, right, or whatever.
No, it's 11.
It feels like that.
It's 11.
It might as well be 6. You absolutely.
Here's the thing, man. I mean, like for anime onlys, like as abysmal as this second season of Promised Neverland was, at least it was over in like 11 episodes.
That's a good point.
And you didn't have to like 24, because the ending in the manga was bad too. You know what I mean? So like if you're a manga reader, then you had to go from like peak fiction to a slowly degrading and declining, into whatever the fuck that shit was with Posaka Demisu carrying Kaiju Shirai's writing over the finish line with her incredible art. Yeah. I don't know what the fuck happened
detail on some of those pages
to the Promised Neverland manga, but like Tell kind of pretty much said it pretty much exactly what was wrong with it. But like at least the anime people didn't have to read through hundreds, damn near 200 chapters to find out it wasn't worth reading. You know what I mean?
That's a good way of looking at it, because I'm satisfied with how terrible it was. It's always going to be in a trash pile, but I only sat through 11 weeks of it, right? Like I'm cool. I don't never have to deal with it again. But people like Tell who've read, how many chapters did y'all say it was?
It's like 180. Yeah, 180. Yeah,
they did 3. They did 3 like
I think it's exactly 180. Yeah.
Yeah, y'all go ahead and just get a YouTube video that summarizes this whole thing, and I promise you, y'all be okay. For those of you that wanted to read it, don't even do it.
Yeah, dude, it's so bad.
Any other bad manga endings?
181 chapters. My bad. I don't know. I'd have to sit and think.
Yeah.
About it. Like my mind is so occupied by like the manga that I'm like reviewing, and like the current everything that I'm reading is like currently ongoing. It's been a while since I've thought about things that have ended. You know, unless it's like recently ended, like Promised Neverland. But at the same time, though, I'm like really optimistic. You know what I mean with manga. It's not like if I don't like something, you know, I'm not going to read it. You know what I mean? So like if I'm reading something and I'm in for the long haul, it's because I think it's good, right? You know, and most of those things are ongoing, so I guess they could blow their endings. But I want to say that most of the things that I've read to completion had good endings, because I feel like I can detect when, I feel like I can detect when something isn't really worth my time. So I don't really have too much complaints inside of the things that I've spent enough time with.
Valid. All right, so you got anything else?
Nah, I don't actually have any other bad manga endings. Most of the manga I've read have pretty good endings.
Sweet. All right, this next question comes from one of our Patreon producers, the Shabibble, or AKA Aaron Brown. He says, are there any other crazy long manga like Bleach or Naruto worth going back to reading now? Like super long.
I haven't really gone back and reread anything super long besides One Piece. One Piece is definitely worth going back and rereading. I don't give a fuck what anybody tells you. Sure, it's 1,000 fucking chapters or 1,000 fucking episodes or whatever, and you probably are like, holy shit, I can't believe I made it to the end of that. But like, I don't know, dude.
Chapter 1004 is like paragraphs.
I'd say go back and reread One Piece. The only other one besides that I've gone back and reread, like I haven't gone back and reread Naruto. I haven't gone back and reread Bleach. I have gone back and reread Dragon Ball though.
The first,
amazing. Amazing.
It's different though. It hits different because a lot of the context and details they give you in Dragon Ball are just different. Like the whole Dragon Ball Super part is almost entirely different. Like how everything goes is almost entirely different. So it's just ridiculous.
Dope. All right.
Ooh, it's not that long, but go back and read Fullmetal Alchemist.
Yes. I don't even know I don't know how it is as a read because I only watched it.
I think it's like 180 chapters.
Okay, that's not too bad actually. It's one of my all-time favorite shows. So always recommend Fullmetal in any form.
Hell yeah.
Scuba Steve says,
my guy.
He says recommendation Undead Unluck, and then he has
yes sir.
he has a question. He says, do you think it's going to get an anime adaptation, and if it does, what do you think will be better, Undead Unluck or Chainsaw Man?
Yeah, I do absolutely think it's going to get an anime. What would it be? Is he saying what would be better, the Chainsaw Man anime or the Undead Unluck anime?
Yeah.
God damn it.
Undead Unluck's gonna be funnier.
Man, I don't even want to compare these two. This is terrible for me right now.
So they're both good, huh?
Not on the spot. Yeah, they're both so good for like similar reasons, but they're both like drastically different stories compared to one another. You know what I mean? It's very one thing that I will say is that like when we were reviewing Chainsaw Man week to week, we made comments all the time in our reviews about how unique and how different of a manga this is, and how blessed we felt that we got to review it like while it was ongoing. You know what I mean? And we were praising it for all of these things that it was doing differently, like how much visual storytelling it had, how it was telling this overarching mystery that it was kind of giving you breadcrumbs and clues for inside of its illustration. That like you could, if you were cold enough, you could probably put a lot of that story's biggest twists together before they were revealed. You know what I mean? So that was something that,
and that's the Polo loves.
That's definitely love.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that Chainsaw Man was doing. You know what I mean? And we were like, holy shit! We lucked out doing this show when we did. And then Chainsaw Man ends, and then we start reviewing Undead Unluck like immediately afterwards. And Undead Unluck is doing like all of the same things Chainsaw Man was doing. And it's like, how are two of these kinds of stories existing in similar times. You know what I mean?
You did me hype as fuck.
It's so and Undead Unluck is almost doing it to like a more drastic degree than Chainsaw Man did, because Chainsaw Man was a lot more so, you know, about you know, the characters and their plights, you know what I mean, and their struggles. There was a lot of visual storytelling going on and a lot of amazing symbolism and illustrative metaphors that Fujimoto Tatsuki was using. But over inside of Undead Unluck, it's all about that overarching mystery and the visual storytelling and dialogue bolding clues that that Yoshifumi Tozuka leaves you in the narrative and in the pages to figure out this mystery. Like, it's almost like he wants you to figure it out. You know what I mean? And like, that's tight. Yeah,
that's my kind of shit.
I've never seen so much like reread value in like for Chainsaw Man, less than 100 chapters, and like I reread that shit like 3 times. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's something that I feel like people will reread like 10, 15, 20 times and still not understand. It's like that esoteric. And then you have fucking Undead Unluck that's got like 55 chapters, and I've already reread that shit like 3 times, because you have to, because every new chapter that comes out, it like references back to like the tiniest fucking drawing in a panel from like chapter 2. Yeah, and it's like, come on,
I love this.
Yeah,
it sounds like ReZero all over again.
Yeah, shit like that, man.
That's just so loud.
Hell yeah.
What you think, Tel? What should be better? Because I know you're reading both, right?
Yeah. So as a personal read, I enjoyed Chainsaw Man more. Now I think that in terms of what's gonna be better in the anime, I would probably personally lean towards Chainsaw Man because I enjoyed that more. But also, I just feel like what it can do in terms of animation, if they get the right studio, would be more towards like what I personally like.
Didn't they draw in Mappa?
Did they draw in Mappa?
Yeah, as like the people who's animating it. Or
Mappa's gonna do Chainsaw Man.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
If they do it like how Jujutsu Kaisen is, I'd be very happy with how Chainsaw Man comes out. Undead Unluck though, like it gives me very like it can be animated so well, but I feel like it's not going to be one of those things where it's always going to be a serious look. It's going to have like, I think it's going to have those dramatic twists where it's going to be like a funny look, and then it's going to switch to something super serious and dramatic. And
Dr. Stone,
I'm okay with that. Well, better than Dr. Stone, hopefully. Like in terms of the animation. I'm not saying Dr. Stone's animation was bad, but like there's moments in it where it feels like Undead gets super serious.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And like I want that super serious look, almost like I guess what's a good way? Like how I get like a Ufotable would edit just a super serious, like good angle of Undead would be for me.
Clean.
Yeah. See, because like Chainsaw Man is gonna have that gritty. Well, I mean, Chainsaw Man can go like one of 2 ways. And we talked about it on our anime expectations episode or stream that we did actually a little bit about how Chainsaw Man in the manga, even though it is a very dark and very gory story, the color palette that Fujimoto Tatsuki uses in the colored art for Chainsaw Man is very bright and very vibrant and very colorful.
A lot of greens.
You know what I mean? So like if you gave that to like a David Productions, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like they would go really stupid with the color palette that we see in the volume covers. But then at the same time, Mappa obviously was the one that was chosen. Then you could see how they will obviously do that because of Jujutsu Kaisen. They can capture that very gritty tone of Chainsaw Man. So like I was saying in that stream, it's like if they went with the more bright color palette and they gave, you know, vibrant greens and yellows and blues to all of this gore, then they probably wouldn't have to dial the gore down any amount for the adaptation because it's all bright and colorful, you know what I mean? So that could be one way to kind of like dodge that. But since it's Mappa and we saw what they did with Jujutsu Kaisen, I feel like it feels a lot safer, or we can more safely assume rather that they're going to go with a more darker tone. You know what I mean? So since that's going to be that with Chainsaw Man, that is kind of the way that shonen anime and manga are kind of like going into a more darker, mature storytelling.
Yeah.
So as far as the hype for Chainsaw Man, I feel like it'll be higher than the hype for Undead Unluck 1, because Chainsaw Man was like critically, you know, and popularly acclaimed, you know what I mean? Like instantly. and like all throughout its runtime, whereas Undead Unluck has a bigger barrier for entry because it has like sexual assault in the first chapter and like sexual assault in its promotion. Yeah, you know what I mean? So a lot of people just don't fuck with Undead Unluck because of that. You know what I mean? So like when the anime starts, if it does get one, not only is it going to have that barrier there that people are going to remember from the manga, but also it's going to have a brighter color palette, is a bubblier, you know, like rounder, you know, friendlier aesthetic inside of Undead Unluck. So aesthetically, I feel like people will gravitate more towards the tone of Chainsaw Man, since that's just kind of the situation that we're in inside of anime and manga right now, in my opinion. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to read this on both of them.
Fire.
I think that opinion is perfect though, because you're right, 100%. Like One Piece is bubbly, but people still love like the context itself, and you know, but we are evolving, like you said. We're seeing more realistic, darker scenes in these series.
Facts. All right, and the last question comes from Abe from Blur Mind Podcast. Inside of Blur Mind Podcast, he says, of course, he says, of course, to the question, what are your predictions for the Calling game? I don't even know what that is.
It's the newest Jujutsu Kaisen arc in the manga. And I'm not going to spoil. I mean, are you guys going to read the manga? Or are you going to wait for the anime?
I think I'm going to wait.
All right, yeah. Then
either
way, I wouldn't want to spoil you anyway. But the Calling game is literally like the most recent story arc plot line of Jujutsu Kaisen. So it's like,
so what's your general overarching thoughts?
I think that we're in for some shit. I think that this is, and especially coming out of a story arc like the Shibuya incident, which is the last big story arc in Jujutsu Kaisen that we just came out of, for there to be a story arc follow up to that feels almost more epic, you know, in scale, is a big deal. So man, so that's all I'm gonna say.
You already know how they trying to get rid of Gojo. I'm gonna save all that for the review, okay? Because we gotta get to that. He says, and then as My Hero's entering its alleged final arc, what are your expectations?
I'm excited as fuck, dude.
Yeah, man. I'm not, even not as a reader, I'm super excited. That is because to have an end to something, I think is always better than to have it ongoing and for it to drop. You know what I mean?
I'm not like excited for it to end, but I'm excited that it sounds like we're getting to the point of the story that I've wanted to see so much since the first chapter. Like in the first episode of the anime and in the first chapter of the manga, when it's like, this is the story of how I became the #1 hero, like Deku was characterized so opposite of that that I was like, I gotta see how this happens. You know what I'm saying? I was like, there's no way. Like, I know that this kid is gonna be the #1 hero by the end of this comic book, but like, I just can't see it. You know what I mean? So like, now that we're finally at a point, and then Deku really does feel like he's just about there anyway. You know what I mean? In the manga. But I know that whatever the events are that like paint him as the new symbol of peace or #1 hero in society's eyes, whatever that event is going to be one of the best things I've ever seen in manga. So I'm excited to see that.
I entirely agree, because like the latest, what transpires in this latest chapter, not including what comes out next, it really sets an idea of what Deku is trying to do and like make his sacrifice for. And it's overall exciting, but also it gives me that context, because like after this is done and, you know, school is all over, does he cease to be a hero? Is there still going to be a need for heroes? I'm really interested in the context that's going to take for it, like go for it after this. Are we going to get a My Hero just overall series, or is the academia part going to be taken out, or is this going to be completely done?
Right. There is the possibility that this is just the end of part 1.
Do we get
go into like a Shippuden? Yeah.
Oh, get a My Hero Shippuden.
Or My Hero Agency.
Yeah, that'd be live.
It's my favorite. Yeah.
That'd be live. All right, and that's it for the Twitter questions. Let's go to, before we go into break, get to know my Check Waifu and Project Manga. So what we do is we roll a random number generator associated with a list that we have full of questions. So it's Tell's turn to read the question, and it's my turn to roll the random number generator. And Nox, you could join in with us on whatever this question is going to be. We don't know what it is. We just go off of whatever we get. So this
is cool.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's a way to get to know us. Some of it may be anime related. Some of it just may be just a random. What's your favorite chips type shit. So,
oh, okay.
we should see what we get. All right, so you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, the number is 26. My favorite number.
Hey, it's one off from my favorite number.
Hey,
What
27.
What anime character do you hate the most?
Ooh. Shit, man. That's tough because there's a lot that I hate. A lot of characters I hate.
Of all time?
I mean, it just
gotta
says
be
what
the
anime
most.
character do you hate the most, bro.
Shit.
It could be Rachel.
Rachel's pretty low hanging fruit.
Yeah, it could be.
But it's such a strong answer.
Yeah, like
it's such a strong answer. Dude, fuck that bitch. That's my answer. Rachel.
it could be Gabby. That's another low hanging fruit too, but I fucking hate her guts.
I don't watch Attack on Titan yet, but I know she sucks. All my people tell me she sucks.
You reading it?
I'm not reading it either. I'm waiting for it to end.
interesting.
I've been waiting for it to end for like a year. Everyone's to tell me the next chapter is the last one for like a year.
Yo, she fucking sucks, bro. She fucking sucks. Or that Melty. What's Melty's
Malty.
sister's? What's her sister name?
Malty.
Oh, her name is Malty.
Yeah.
So like, is this just like that we actually hate as far as we think this is a bad character, like a badly written character,
All of
or
the
we
above.
hate them
Whatever
just
you
based
choose.
on like what the narrative wants us to feel about this character?
Whatever you choose.
Yeah.
I mean, I fucking hated Tonpa in fucking Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For what he represented, but like I loved his writing. You know what I mean? Like I think that he's a brilliantly
That's a good
designed
one.
and written character, but he fucking pissed me the fuck off in
That's a
Hunter x
great
Hunter.
one.
So I guess that'll be my answer.
I got some backlash for saying this over on Anime After Dark, but Kyubey, I hate Kyubey as a character from
Kyubey from what?
Madoka Magica.
Oh, sure.
I
haven't
just don't
seen
like
that yet.
Kyubey.
Oh.
The character itself is pretty bad. Not written bad, but its motivations just really pissed me off. Like,
Interesting.
yeah.
All right, and let's get to know Mic Check Waifu in Project Manga. So when we come back, it'll be time for the review. We're gonna take this quick break. We're gonna play this tune that we got from Auracane, one of our favorite lo-fi artists. And I'm thinking we might have a little something for him too. So check this song out. This is an unreleased track that he gave us the exclusive for. So check it out. And when we come back, we get to this JJK review. I'm excited. welcome back to Mic Check Waifu episode 94. I gotta think of a cool spin for this the title of this episode, because I know on episode 51 we had a Blanime. They helped us review Made in Abyss, and we called that Blender Made in Abyss. So I got to think of a cool,
clever,
cool spin for this one.
I like that.
But it's time. Full spoilers. If you haven't finished Jujutsu Kaisen, what the hell is wrong with you?
Right.
You shouldn't have turned on this episode of the podcast. But we will go into full spoilers of the full season. But for those of you who are unfamiliar, our reviews are kind of our staple at Mic Check Waifu. We have I won't say flawless, because B-Stars got an 8 and it shouldn't have, Montel. A pretty cool review scale that kind of works out extremely well. So the way it works is we take 5 categories. We rate those categories using a 20-point scale. So 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, all the way up into 10. After we rate all 5 of those categories, we take each individual person's score, we average that together, and then we have that as the average score for the show as in its entirety. So first thing we like to start off with when we do a review is the overall thoughts, just general thoughts of Jujutsu Kaisen. Who wants to do the honors of going first?
Let the guest go first.
Nox, what you got?
Man, I'm gonna be so biased during this. I'm be throwing all kinds of 10s out, bro. I'll try my best, man. But overall, I thought it was a perfect first season. I'm not going to say a perfect first season, because there are things that I think that there are a couple of things that I think should have been done differently, but just personally. So I guess, I don't know, I could give my overall thoughts for the entire first season if I'm going to score it.
Well, you don't have to score it right now.
Sure. I thought it was brilliant, dude. Yeah. I was waiting for this for so long, you know what I mean? And like all of my favorite moments, they knocked it out of the park, and it just went above and beyond my expectations. So
yeah, like I said at the beginning of the show, you're the reason why we were extremely hype about this. But also there were other people on the timeline, the reason why we were extremely disappointed about God of High School. So it was kind of like
sure. So you saw God of High School and you're like, I don't know if Mappa got this.
exactly right.
Oh my goodness.
I was troubled. I was startled. But then I'm like, okay, so I trust Nox, because I was listening to y'all a lot, like before this point. So I'm like, I do trust him, and he seems to have, you know, the grip on this shit. Like you go deeper with what you like, and that's what I like about y'all show.
Thanks, man.
So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna trust it. I'm excited for it. As excited as I was when that first episode dropped, I was blown away. I was blown the fuck away. I'm like, this music, man.
That first opening, oh my god,
me, man. I'm like, this shit is so great. I got it on my phone in my playlist as just a bop to drop to. It's so fucking good.
Yes.
And then Mappa, man. So Mappa isn't my favorite studio. Obviously, it's ufotable for me. But the main reason why is because consistency. Mappa isn't always consistent with the shows that it produces. Obviously, God of High School being one that we don't want to talk about. And God of High School didn't look bad per se, but it was just inconsistent. Yeah. So
sure,
I was kind of scared. I'm like, okay, this.
I feel like that falls more on Crunchyroll though, fam, because it's like Crunchyroll gave them the contract and said fit 150 fucking chapters of content in 13 episodes. I feel like Mappa took that and said, yeah, all right, nigga. You know, I was like, I guess, you know, like, we'll do what the fuck we can, you know. But dude, imagine that board meeting, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like the animators are like, so what do you want us to do? It's like, all right, you got 13 episodes. Go read the God of High School, finish the first tournament. Yeah, that's what you're fitting in here. They probably came back like, all right, look, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? This like this. Yeah, that's that. What you giving us, man?
That's a good point. This could be
at least that's what I want to. I don't know like what goes on in there. That's just what I want to assume is like kind of the situation. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because you know,
talk about a disappointment though.
Yeah.
But overall, man, we're gonna get to the review. But I was blown back every fucking episode. Every episode.
Yes.
What you got, Tel?
I think this is one of the best surprises since like After Lost in Space.
Facts.
And I'm not even gonna say like, because to me it wasn't really a surprise, because like we kind of took your word for it, Nox. We was like, this is gonna be good, and I was also like Polo. So I was also very worried after God of High School, because I was giving God of High School more chances than Polo was, and it kept letting me down.
I gave it hella chances too, man. Like, but once I found out how many episodes they were adapting, that's when I was just like, all right, well. Because I didn't know all that at first, I was just watching it episode by episode and just kind of seeing how just going with the motions, you know what I mean? Right. Once that info dropped, though, I was like, there's no chance that this has,
But there's so many gems in JJK that, like, just watching it, it's hard to not love it, bro.
Yeah,
right.
It's hard to be negative about it anyway.
Right.
Facts. And we're gonna try our best to be as unbiased as possible, but it's real fucking hard. It's gonna be real fucking hard. Look, Nox is struggling over.
I'm probably not gonna say a single negative thing about this shit the whole time,
and
bro.
Nobody can fucking blame me, dog, because this shit is incredible. Okay, so first thing we're gonna start off with is the categories. The first thing we're going to rate is the pacing of the show. So that's episode to episode, how strong the story development was per episode, how it transitioned from, episode 11 to 12, 13 to 14, etc. So as far as pacing goes, I can start with that. I said this while we were watching it, and I believe it was episode when Gojo blew up Mount Fuji, dude. Oh my God. I'm like, there's no fucking way this pacing should be this perfect, because it seemed like we were 13 episodes in already, but it was like episode 8, and it felt like I was able to keep up with whatever they had, like as far as lore goes. I was able to understand exactly how the power system worked within the first 4 episodes. So I'm like, this shit is crazy how good and how detailed they're being within just a few episodes that I'm already captured.
Hell yeah.
So for me, the pacing is probably my favorite part. Like pacing and plot is my favorite thing in the story of anime. I can give a fuck about animation. Animation can be shit, but as long as the pacing and plot makes sense, I'm down with it. And this shit was an actual fuck. It's a 10, man. I don't give 10s out often.
Hey, let's go.
I don't do it often. I promise you I don't, man. But
hey, man, I'm not complaining at all, bro. I don't know. Pacing is something that I probably look at a little bit differently. Tell, do you read the Jujutsu Kaisen manga?
I've read some chapters, but not enough to be like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what happens next. I
feel like I look at the pacing a little bit different since I've read everything.
Interesting.
Beforehand. So like as far as the pacing goes for me, I look at it as what they're trying to fit into the season.
Oh, this,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Because like when I didn't know throughout the entire season how far it was going to adapt the series, you know what I mean? So now that I've seen what it's done, yeah, I think it was paced beautifully. You know what I mean? But if I would have known that they were going to adapt up to Origin of Obedience in 24 episodes, you probably would have heard me complain on the timeline until I saw the execution for it, because it just doesn't feel like you should be able to fit that much content in 24 episodes to me. But they did it, and it was beautiful, and it didn't feel rushed at all.
None.
You know what I mean? So I have to give it a 10 just because my expectation was subverted so drastically. You know what I mean?
Good stuff. All right, tell what you got.
I hate to be the one. So I really enjoyed the pacing too. To me, the only episode that kind of threw the pacing off was the baseball episode.
What?
Yeah. That was very jarring for people in the manga too. Yeah.
I loved how everything else went perfectly though. So I got to give it a 10 because the baseball episode to me was perfect too. Like everything was perfect in terms of how the story was told. Like even like the baseball episode was my least favorite episode. To me, it was imperative to how the story was going on because it explained everything so well.
Yes.
Like it wasn't out of place. There was nothing out of place in this. And nothing felt wrong. The pacing was perfect for me. Like they didn't.
I think the baseball episode was a perfect unwinding to what just happened. And I think that was necessary for it. Like they said, okay, we can't not finish this test because this is what Jujutsu Tech is all about. Like we have to do this test.
It was creative, bro.
Exactly. That's exactly what
I
was doing.
I thought it was like it was. I was like, oh, they playing baseball now, but how they explained everything, like it still tested everyone's abilities, and I was like, they did a good job at that, bro. Like
the reason why I think the baseball episode or the baseball moment slapped so hard is because, sure, at surface level, someone would go, it was very jarring that like villains broke in during their exchange event and like kind of accomplished whatever goal that they had and kind of like made a mockery of the Jujutsu world and then left, and like a bunch of our people died. So like a lot of people on surface level would probably go, yeah, it's very jarring to go from that situation to like, you know, playing fucking baseball and being happy, you know, and, you know, frolicking on a baseball diamond. Essentially, I can understand that. But if you remember the conversation that they have like right after the attack, you know what I mean? They're like, so what do we do? You know what I mean? It's like, yo, we should probably chill on this. And it's like, no, I think Toto is the one that says like, we didn't even like, you know, like we should only really mourn the deaths of people that we actually knew. First of all, like these were our people, but like we didn't really know these motherfuckers. Second of all, like we just got ran up on with everyone here and kind of. So like, why would we stop training? You know what I mean? Like, so like the logic was amazing there. And then I think that also it was kind of like a subtle thing about how like instead of 1v1 fights like the second phase of the exchange festival usually goes, there's this gag or joke that instead it's baseball and it was rigged by Gojo or something, I think is what it was. But I think that was like a parental kind of thing that goes, okay, villains just came and killed a bunch of us like while we were doing school shit. So how about instead of 1v1 fights, we fucking play baseball for the same effect. And it's like not as stressful of a situation to come right out of a villain attack into 1v1 fights. Let's fucking play baseball instead.
Give a sense of normalcy in this situation. You need it.
Not to mention with the training, and they were still like kind of like getting a sigh of relief while training, right? Like all their training was so intense up until then. Like Yuji went from not knowing how to do the Black Flash to accomplishing it 4 times in a row, tying for the record, and then you know beating an S rank, you know, curse. Like to me, they had this whole intense moment, and they still have to go back and train, but it wasn't as tough of a training. It was more of a like team building exercise, which is what they should be doing. Even though they're competing against each other, they're going to have to work together at some point.
What do you call it in the workout world? A cool down period.
Right.
That's essentially what I feel like it was, and I feel like it worked well. I feel like it worked well.
I agree.
All right, so you want to start off with plot? What you think of the plot? So the plot is overall thoughts of the storytelling and the writing. Like the writing is important. So what did you think about how they wrote it? How the storytelling played out?
The overall plot of the Jujutsu Kaisen world to me, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, it makes too much sense, right? Like the whole idea of curses, we know what curses are, whether you be Haitian, American, you know, no matter what part of the world you're from, Japanese, we all know what some kind of curse is, and we know what the kind of effect they have on people's bodies and minds. And this just fit too well as well. Like, the plot of everything like that. So like none of the villains or anything like that felt out of place. The ideas of how the villains even came about, the curses came about, how Yuji gained his power, motivations, the plot of the story. Yeah, I give that a 10.
Hell
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, fuck. I don't give out 10s a lot.
You're going to say that every category. I'm screaming.
Because it's imperative that the listeners know that I am normally the more harsh one when it comes to reviews. Like I fucking dissect shit when it comes to reviews. And
the fact that you're this gassed up though says a lot then for your audience, because it's like, fam, if you're the critical one,
I am,
and you throw in these 10s out, come on, audience.
He didn't give a second 10 yet. We got to see what he's going to say.
Okay.
This plot is unfucking believable. And again, it all stems back to who write this, Nox?
Akutami Gege.
Fucking insane. He's brilliant with the pen. Like seriously brilliant with the pen. The way and again, maybe it's Mappa could take some credit for this too, but the way they place flashbacks or they put those explanations for situations like the Black Flash in that episode where he was explaining, you know, the limits of it or the history behind it and how that shit works was fucking phenomenal, man. It just felt so good to understand. And mind you, I used to hate subtitles when I was younger. Like I can't really pay attention as much when I'm reading it opposed to just watching it in English. That's how I used to be as a kid. Like I was 12, 13 years old, whatever. But when I grew out of that, I'm reading this shit and I'm getting just blown back by how easy it is to comprehend this world. And when I see it on Twitter, when I see people talking about, but this doesn't make sense with how the power system in Jujutsu Kaisen works, it pissed me off so bad. Nox, I swear to God, I wanted to throw my phone. I'm like, this is because I understand it clear as day. Somebody who don't read the manga, how beautifully it's written and drawn into this world that I'm just captivated by.
And that's what it is, Polo, is about how it's about how invested. It's always about how invested you are. You know what I mean? Because the information is there. It's not complicated for the sake of being complicated.
Exactly.
Like there is nuance to it. Like there's levels to it. So if you're a casual expecting bright lights and explosions to be explained by, you know, anger or the power of friendship or surpassing your limits or wherever you normally get that from, and then you're met with a power system that gives you as much nuance as Jujutsu Kaisen does, then like, you'll probably snap out of that like surface level goggles that you have when they're explaining some deep shit and go, I have no idea what the fuck is going on here. And instead of going, maybe I should have paid more attention, you instantly just go, I'm mad at this series now. Get the fuck over yourself, first of all, kid. Second of all, like, just, it's all about how much you fucking care. If you care enough, you know, about something, then you're going to pay attention to it to the degree that is required for you to understand.
And I give everything a chance. I gave 130 something episodes to Black Clover, and I just can't fuck it. Everything you said about the opposite of what JJK is what Black Clover is to me. I can't fucking stand their power system. It's so surface level, it pisses me off. But
it's just magic Green Lanterns.
Exactly. Motherfuckers get spells out of nowhere because my friend is in trouble. I hate that shit. So that's why this is another perfect 10. Because again, that penmanship is just spectacular, man. Some of the best writing I've seen since ReZero, and ReZero's writing is also incredible.
I've been hearing nothing but good things about ReZero, man. It might be time.
It's our number one. I'm buying the light novels.
Fuck yeah, dude. That's awesome.
So
JD Legend is another one that and Dritz too praises ReZero to the moon.
It's live, man. It's live.
Hell yeah.
All right, so that's another that's 2 10s. Fuck.
What's up, Nox?
What you got for us?
Okay, so the plot for Jujutsu Kaisen is huge for me because Jujutsu Kaisen is very much a deconstruction of shonen as well. You know what I mean? So everywhere that you see an established trope, Jujutsu Kaisen seems to kind of want to turn that on its head. You know what I mean? And so inside of the demon and the main character trope, inside of the Team 7 trope is obviously handled much differently than what we've seen, you know, in stories that have emulated that since Naruto. So just on the difference factor, like of the plot and the characters involved and how everything is kind of initially characterized and written, that unique factor gives it a lot of points for me too. But just like kind of like going a little bit deeper into what I mean by that, as far as like let's take isolated situations here. So the fact that the main character's motivations are something that I've literally never heard of before is massive for a shonen story. What are the motivations of Asta right now? Wizard King, Luffy Pirate King,
Naruto,
you know what I mean?
Hokage.
You know, Naruto is Hokage, Midoriya is #1 hero. You know, like that's all fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you have that history of shonen storytelling always giving the main character a #1 goal or something similar, and then you have, you know, Yuji who just wants to die a meaningful death and save as many people as he can beforehand, that's pretty fucking cool, dude.
Sick.
So like that off the top, tight, you know what I mean? And then as far as Sukuna being the demon inside of him is literally giving. And I understand that Kurama was very similar, you know what I mean, in the beginning of Naruto. So I mean, like, first 25 episodes, you can't really tell that this demon in the main character situation is going to be drastically different than anything that you've seen before. Yeah, but point. It is, you know what I mean? And like that, I have to give props to, because that is a very overused plot device, in my opinion. So if you're trying to make that situation unique, you know, when, like, I feel like people didn't even really know that they needed, you know, a different demon in the main character situation until Yuji and Sukuna. Like, everyone was just cool with Yusuke and Mazoku and Naruto and Kurama and like all of these other kind of like situations. But it wasn't until Jujutsu Kaisen came out that you realized that the trope was kind of trite and like played out. You know what I mean? So I respect it for that. I love how. So if we're talking about like isolated situations here, Nobara Kukisaki, boom. 100%, like just her being in the story, fantastic, in the role that she is, and the character that she is wildly different than a lot of shit that I've seen in this genre. Yeah. And then like another like quick point, I just made this point like on Twitter inside of the Origin of Obedience arc that just finished in the anime. You had a situation where the main conflict inside of the arc was 3 special grade curses. 2 of them were in cahoots with each other. Another one was just a motherfucker that was there, but still inside of the same rank of threat. So then normally inside of this situation, you would think main character solos the biggest threat, and then secondary main character and female main character team up to deal with the 2 lesser threats. But these threats, you can't really tell who's stronger than the other. So like that's fucking amazing. These 3 special grade curses, it's up in the air. I mean, probably the ones that got more characterization, you could probably say are stronger, but still, you don't really know. And the fact that you give the deuteragonist the solo W inside of Megumi, you know, versus that special grade, and then you have the main character team up with the female lead, you know, like that's just so different. It
was so good. So good.
You know, like it's shit like that you have to like take your hat off to Jujutsu Kaisen for, you know what I mean? So I was very long-winded, but the plot's a 10 to me.
10 facts. Man, that was beautifully said, man. Beautifully said. Now this is the easiest one ever. Animation. Fucking Mappa destroyed it.
Disgusting, bro.
Animation for us covers the direction, scenery, art style, and overall visual fidelity. There's not a drop in this fucking show where the quality goes below a fucking 10. This is another fucking 10 for me. Animation was.
Let's fucking go, man.
It was so hard for me to believe that Mappa was doing this shit, because again, the inconsistency that we've been getting with AOT. I know you're not watching it, Nox, but the inconsistency with AOT that we're getting, and the inconsistencies with God of High School, kind of put Mappa in the inconsistent bubble for me. But for this show, they put all their best fucking workers on this show. They said,
because it's the future.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Out with the old and with the new. I'm sorry. I said it. Okay? I haven't even seen Attack on Titan. I got mad love and respect for Isayama and Mappa and whatever. Wit, I think, was the studio beforehand. They've been killing the game. I know that Attack on Titan is peak fiction. But when it comes to the end of the day, these workers, the staff is overworked. Attack on Titan has had its time. It's not going. It's Hall of Fame no matter what at this point.
Facts. And it's okay.
And we don't know the inner workings of the logistics of the animation companies. You know what I mean? We don't know all of the decision making that goes into why Mappa decided to animate both of these things at the same time, or why it happened the way that it did, but it did. And these motherfuckers are overworked. So yes, if one of these fucking shows has to get the fucking short straw in regard to animation quality and budget, why not be the one that's ending and give all the fucking money to the one that's just fucking starting and changing the game? Sorry, that's what I have to say.
Definitely
don't disagree with that.
Don't disagree with that at all. This shit was beautiful. Me and Tell talked about this on the podcast quite frequently, and I used to shoot like music videos back in the day and just do a bunch of like cinematography work. the cinematography in this show, from angles to the way they follow objects so fucking good. And when I say objects, I don't mean just a bullet or the blade of a sword. I'm talking about fists. They follow fucking hip bones, Nox. They follow somebody's hip when he was making a turn for a kick, and it blew me back. I'm like, yo, this motherfucker is tracking a hip right now, and I cannot believe it's looking this good. It was beautiful, man. So beautiful. This is out of all the 10s I gave tonight, animation is the easiest 10 for me because of how consistent and how beautiful the direction and the scenery obviously was gorgeous too.
Yeah, easy, and you could tell, and a lot of people were worried about the CGI situation. You know what I mean? Because Mappa is historically known for the CGI that they use, and they were like, Jujutsu Kaisen is the one that you just don't use CGI for because the illustration style in the manga is so sketchy and pencily, and it's like, what is CGI doing anywhere near this? You know what I mean? So, but the CGI that they did use was so well done. So good. It was very sparing. It felt more like, and I understand that CGI constraints are like a thing to the point where like you kind of have to use CGI at some points for like money or time reasons or whatever. You know what I mean? So if that was something that was going on with Jujutsu Kaisen and there were times where they had to use CGI, it was like bare minimum, and it felt like it was a choice and not a requirement of them.
What they did with that CGI though, they gave it the sharp lines that everything else had in the show. So they deepened the blacks on the edges for the CGI, which made it fit a lot cleaner than it does in a lot of other shows. The best CGI scene was when Mahito tried to attack Yuji's soul, and Sukuna was like, "Hey, look, bro, I gave you a warning, motherfucker." Wow, and he fucking like, and just the way that it like the lighting was used and like the erratic movements of Mahito, like as he's taking the damage with like no sound effects coming from him, with just the OST and the blood coming from the neck, like gorgeous. All in CG with like Sukuna like just chilling, you know, like that direction of that scene. I don't like. It doesn't even matter that it was a CGI scene. Like the direction supplements any kind of negatives 100. That would come from that scene being done in CGI. 100%. You know what I mean? 100%.
So what you giving it, Nox?
10.
Okay, cool.
Come on, man.
I guess we're all in agreement there too that it's a 10. Just like Polo talked about, I love the angles on this, but I'm going to talk about something slightly different. The fight choreography in this was amazing.
Different,
when it came to angles, I had always thought that, like, for instance, I always was gonna give like Ufotable the best angles. They always had the best angles.
Yeah,
Mappa had the best angles with this, but the choreography also rivals the best hand-to-hand combat, some of the best overall like written like fights that I've seen in a while. That just graced an anime. It was ridiculous to see like how this stuff went on. Even in that last episode, like the hairpin, like that
the hairpin Sakuga was disgusting.
Nasty,
I was like, what? I haven't shown you this yet, and you just see the explosion. It was like, yeah, it's a wrap,
just
bro.
16K,
like,
beautiful HD, everything, bro.
And it was so easy to follow. That's like I like Mob Psycho a lot. Like I love that show, but for some reason that animation is so hard to follow a lot of the times. But with this one, you can see everything so clear and just beautifully done.
Yeah. So one thing about animation, that like I'm starting to notice a little bit more of now that I'm kind of starting to look into it. I studied animation like back in like Newgrounds era. You know what I mean? The internet, you know what I mean? So like Flash MX, you know what I mean? Was like Flash MX was like the program, and like now like sites don't even like support Flash anymore. So like that's crazy. I feel old as shit. But like so back in the day, I studied animation inside of Flash MX, and then time goes by and like I started reviewing manga and studying anime and whatnot and looking into animation again, and just seeing the difference in over time is ridiculous. But also one interesting thing that I learned is that like you can either, most of the time you're either animating on ones or twos, I think is the terminology that they use. So you're either when you're animating on twos, you're drawing something new every 2 frames. When you're animating on ones, you're drawing something every frame or whatever. So or whatever that is. So in terms of me knowing that information now, whenever I watch anything animated, I try to look to see, you know, what scenes could be animated every, you know, two frames. It could be animated every single frame. And when you have it every single frame, that creates that very cohesive, you know, very buttery movement, you know what I mean? Or whatever, the Sakuga. I don't know all the terminology. I'm not that guy. But like contrasting it to like when I'm watching fucking Invincible, for example, and Invincible Western, you know, superhero animation or just Western animation in general, I feel like cuts a lot of those corners and just animates entirely two at a time because it's good enough or whatever. But anime really goes that extra mile, but they still animate on twos sometimes, I found out. You know what I mean? And like so like because like there are budgetary, you know, or budget constraints, you know what I mean, and things like that say, hey, you don't have to go that, let's not go that hard on this scene, let's not go that hard on that scene, whatever the conversation is. But inside of Jujutsu Kaisen, I feel like I couldn't fucking notice any kind of like choppier, you know what I'm saying, like movements as if it was animated on twos, you know what I mean? So like it like and maybe it's just because Jujutsu Kaisen is the first anime that I've watched since I've started looking more into animation, so maybe I'm just like, this is the gold standard ever since I started you know what I mean? I don't know. You would notice, but like I feel like ever since I really started looking into that, it gives me a newfound appreciation for animation quality. God High School had that same instance where they would animate on ones a lot, but very specific scenes they would animate on twos a lot, and then very specific scenes they would go to one. It's very jarring, probably the transition, because it's like so fluid. Exactly right. You know, when Jin Mori's doing his renewal shit, but then when they're having conversations, it's eraser animation, exactly, you know what I mean? It's like the slow motion. It's like the slow motion 60 versus 30. Like if you put something in slow motion in 30 frames, the shit looks like poop. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just like that. All right, man. Next up is sound design. Sound design includes the soundtrack and then the overall sound effects of the show. So hits, you know, taps, walks, whatever. You want to start with sound design, Nox? What you think of it? I didn't see, like, this is something where I feel like I don't like really notice too much negatively. You know what I mean? Like if the microphone isn't peaking or something drastic like that, I don't notice anything weird in sound design. I'm not listening to that degree. The only things that I'd be able to say is if I liked a song choice, you know, or not in a certain scene. And there was only like one time where I felt like the song choice at the time could have been a better decision, you know, and that was when Yuji and Toto were fighting Hanami in the exchange arc, you know what I mean? And like, it was an amazing scene. They were beating the brakes off of Hanami together. It was this amazing scene, but then like the music was like that, like, I don't even know. It was like that the singer and like the rap at the same time. I don't remember what it was, but I just remember being like, this song probably didn't need to be here. But it wasn't like it's not like it ruined the scene or anything. That was just the only time where I felt kind of taken out of the scene for the first time while watching it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So what'd you give it overall? Fuck, man, the soundtrack was perfect, literally. I mean, besides that literally one time where I was like, just for a moment, and it wasn't even that big of a deal. Like, it's hard for me to not give it a 10 here, too. I really didn't like the second opening. So I guess if that's going into sound design, then I have to take points away for like not really liking the second song as much. So I guess 9.5, okay. 9. Let's go 9 for sound design. Yeah, and I'm gonna agree with you. A lot of the times the soundtrack felt weird. Like, and it was always the hip hoppy spins. Yeah, it was always the hip hoppy ones. Other than everything else was literally flawless. But whenever they tried to throw those hip hop tracks in there, like there was instances where it would crescendo extremely well during like the fight with the Stitch dude. I forget what was his name again. Mahito. Yeah, those fights, those were pretty good. But a lot of the times during like the big moments, it would be that hip hop singing shit. It just felt so out of place. And then I'm with you on the second intro. It wasn't my favorite. I love to look at it though. It was beautiful as hell, animated. Animation way better than the first opening. Yeah, it was gorgeous. Period. Yeah, it was gorgeous. But the song, I wasn't feeling as much. That was the time I actually just skipped that second. It did, half. and I did skip it, but it did grow on me. Like it did eventually grow on me, but like not to the point where I'm like putting it on myself. myself, like outside of the show or going out of my way to talk about it. You know what I mean? But like, I think it was just because Kai Kai Kitan, the first opening, was like such a perfect banger for Jujutsu Kaisen. Like, and that was the first kind of song that we ever heard associated with Jujutsu Kaisen. So I feel like in those kind of situations, when it's the first time that you've heard music associated with an anime, you just say that's the kind of musical vibe that this show has. You know what I mean? And then when you get the second OP following that, what felt like something perfect, if it's not at that level or above, then it's going to feel mediocre.
Like Fire Force opening 2 wasn't as good as the first one, but it was still
Vinland Saga opening 2 did not hit for me the same as opening 1 either. Fire Force 2, you know what I mean? Like,
same deal. I'm gonna give it a 9 too. The 9 is where I was at when I originally watched it, and I watched it back. Playing it back, the dub is I'm not factoring into this and this sound design. It's not that great, but it's not as bad as everybody's saying too. So just keep that in mind if you're a dub fan. It's really not that bad. Tell.
So I didn't check out the dub at all, other than Tuna laughing. Which I thought was absolutely garbage. But I think like the voice actors in the sub, to me, every voice actor did their thing. They did amazing.
Yes.
The first intro and the first outro, absolute bangers. Classics. In my opinion. I never disliked the second intro. Like for me, that second intro to me was like on it. Yeah, and I probably was dancing to it. So I guess that was definitely my thing. And I guess I'm the odd man out on this one.
You going 10?
Because I love the sound design on this. I'm giving it another 10. There was not a single sound on here because like when you want to hear footsteps, you heard the footsteps.
Those are
when they were playing whack-a-mole in the latest episode, you heard the whack-a-mole.
Now, sound design inside of the sound effects is literally perfect. Like the only reason why sound design can't get a 10 for me is because it just doesn't feel right knowing that there was a moment where I was like, I don't know if I like this. You know what I mean? Just in like a music, like OST choice.
Right.
You know what I mean? But everything Tell is talking about right now, literally
that's exactly why it's still as high as it is. I think
that's fair because to me, I'm giving it 10 because it never took me out of the zone. Right, like I'm watching it, I never once came out of the zone from watching it.
Like that was a weird sound effect. Why was that such a weird crunch or something like that? You never felt like that.
Right. And if it took me out of the zone because the crunch was like too perfect, that's one thing because I'm still giving you a 10 for it being too good. So I just want you to know I can't give you 11, but I'm gonna give you a 10 because it was too good.
So the music
like
too you was feeling.
When Mom broke Emma's leg, I was like, hold up.
Shit. Yeah.
Oh man.
That shit blew.
But I'm giving it a 10.
Yeah.
So you like all the music too, huh? Well, of course you do because you could pop to it.
I can pop back to it. You know what I was doing. I go ahead and do my thing.
That makes sense.
Exactly.
And there was this one thing that my homegirl told me. She studies theater or film or something like that, like professionally. So and she told me something that like changed my perception of like fictional storytelling mediums forever because like we were. She said this thing. She said the movie or the show you're watching should never make you think about how it's made while you're watching it. Yeah. If the movie does something for any reason, whether it's positive or negative, that takes you out of the immersion think about how it's made in the real world, that film or television show has failed. So, for example, like if I was watching a movie, have you guys ever seen Drag Me to Hell? So Drag Me to Hell is a Sam Raimi movie. It's a fucking horror parody. It's fucking trash. It definitely doesn't take itself too seriously. But like I didn't know that it was a parody the first time I watched it, and I'm watching it with my friends, not knowing that it's like making fun of itself. And I'm like, this is a good movie. I watched it back in the day. Trust me, it's good, you guys. You know. And I'm watching it for the first time as an adult now, and like the sound engineering specifically was very awkward because it's kind of like a slasher flick where everything is exaggerated. You know what I mean? So gross sounds are extra gross. You know what I mean? Visual effects are like extra as fuck. You know what I mean? Like when someone bleeds, it's like, you know what I mean? Like this, like shit like that. You know what I mean? And this is a prime example of what I was talking about. And she was like, dude, this shit sucks because the sound engineering is so ridiculous because the visual effects are so, you know, out of hand. You know what I mean? And it really, like, once you start thinking about what fucking thing was used to make the sound you just heard.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, were they squeezing a fucking rubber ducky in the fucking mic or something? Like, once you start thinking about that, the fucking show failed you, is what she was saying. And like, I didn't notice like anything like that in Jujutsu Kaisen, you know?
Yeah.
So
I like that.
Good deal.
yeah.
All right, and the final category, Tell, I'm gonna throw to you to start off with. This one is characters. How much did you like / grew attached to the characters, side or mains? Sides get loves too in this category. Man,
The only thing I can say about the characters is that I wanted more of them. Yeah, I wanted more. I love Megumi. Megumi, he gave me the best vibe when he used his zone.
oh
The
my
domain expansion, boy.
Listen, that sub
I
actor
was
killed
like-
that shit too.
And the thing is to me, so like this is what made that part so sweet, was like what made it like resonate with me, was that like this entire time he's kind of been like this somber, like mellow character who's like he knows what he's thinking, he has his ideologies, we know what his inner monologue is, but he's trying to like surpass that now. And you kind of see him break and start laughing at like his weakness and trying to overcome it. And that shit was like,
Yeah.
he's kind of losing it, but holding it together at the same time. That felt like real.
The way you said that is amazing right now. He's losing it, but he's like holding it together at the same time. And like that scene is so powerful because it's definitely one of those surpass your limits kind of situations that we might clown Black Clover for.
Yeah.
But it's different inside of the situation where he surpasses his limits to achieve the domain expansion, because the flashback tells us he always had these capabilities and just didn't like believe like in himself. It's not the same thing as you didn't have this capability before, and now because you have a newfound outlook on life, that ability is available to you.
Right.
No, like Gojo and Sukuna both said,
Two of the strongest
you
motherfuckers.
are not giving yourself enough credit.
Yep.
So when he finally does say fuck it, and he goes to try to threaten the super special technique that he like threatened like 3 times this season, where he fucking puts his hands like this and he's like ring wheel, whatever. He's always trying to threaten that because it's like a trump card, you know, or whatever, that doesn't really rely on his own capabilities, is what Gojo was saying to him in that flashback. And then Sukuna was like, you know, he has the flashback to Sukuna telling him, why are you're not activating all of your shit. So then when he sits there and he goes, yo, this thing just fucking stole off me, I'm losing blood, it's over, guess I better fucking load the shit. And then he like thinks about it and he's like, no, don't do that again, you know. And that's when he kind of like laughs, like, all right, fuck it, domain expansion then, you know what I'm saying? If they telling me I could do it, I could do it, you know what I mean? And like that's what makes that moment feel so much better than like a Black Clover power up, because there's history of failure and like uncertainty inside of the character before you surpass the limits. It's not I suck, I wish I didn't suck anymore, I don't suck anymore. You know what I mean? Like
Nox is getting it, man.
And I love how every character is made though, like, right? Like the curses, like we were talking about this earlier, all the curses make sense. Like our main curses that we're following are all curses of the world. They exist because of how humanity thinks about life.
Yes.
And to me, as a character, to have that as like your main threat, just boom. Like that's the personification of the worries of man. I gave the characters a 10.
Yes, dude. Okay, piggybacking off of what Tell said in regards to the characters and the motivations of the villains is one thing that I want to touch on, because as soon as the villainous landscape was being fleshed out inside of Jujutsu Kaisen for the first time, I was like, all right, let's see how this goes, because this is like the area of shonen storytelling where I'm like the least impressed like every time.
All the time.
You know what I mean? Like the villains that I feel like have gotten so stale over the years, you know what I mean? And it's gotten, I feel like, kind of hard based on the history of shonen storytelling. At least it seems like it's kind of gotten hard for mangaka or authors to write compelling villains that have any more depth than just being evil for the sake of being evil, right? Right, exactly. And I'm not saying that every manga before Jujutsu Kaisen pissed me off in this way, but it was just a trend that I was noticing. You know what I mean? So when we get to this bar scene or this restaurant scene, and Jogo is talking to Geto, and he's like, humans are lying like a motherfucker, bro. You know, and he has that amazing soliloquy about like how every single time a human has a positive emotion, there's always a hidden negative emotion behind that. They're lying through their teeth. You know what I'm saying? They're happy you got a promotion. They wish they got the promotion in the background. Exactly. You know what I mean? Things like that. You know, but curses, they wear all of their emotions on their sleeve at all times. Whenever, you know, someone hates someone, or whenever it's a negative emotion, there's no, you know, ulterior flip side to that. That's how you really feel. You know what I mean? You don't try to hide, you know, like anything. Like, you can really see it. And I love that was the motivation of the villainous, you know, situation inside of Jujutsu Kaisen, because like that felt so good right away. It wasn't like the typical case of introducing a monstrous threat that just starts killing people arbitrarily, and you don't get any motivations for him until you're in the middle of the final confrontation and you're about to land the final hit, and then it triggers the flashback and you get all this pathos for the villain. No, we're setting this straight right from the beginning. This is how these niggas are. You know what I mean? So I loved, you know, Jujutsu Kaisen for that.
Incredible. So what you give the characters?
I mean, that's just the villains. I mean, Yuji's is an amazing main character. Yes. Nobara as a female lead is something that I feel like is very refreshing, that we haven't really seen too much. Now, there are badass female characters like Nobara in manga, all over, you know what I mean? But they're not like in the primary female lead position.
And
most
all the
of the
females
time.
In this show is badass.
Yeah, like literally at every point in time where you could have seen Nobara in a situation that matched history as far as her character's archetype, Gege said, watch this. You know what I mean? And like right away from the beginning, when they're fighting that first special grade in that like school or whatever, and fucking, you know, Nobara gets like sucked into a fucking like trap or whatever, and you're like, and like when I'm first reading that, I'm like, oh no, damsel in distress, here we go. Megumi-san, Yuji-san, save me, I'm scared. No, next time you see her, she's fucked up. She's killed like 17 of them, and she's like, all right, I couldn't kill all of you, but I'm gonna remember y'all's faces, and I'm gonna curse the fuck out of you when I die. You know what I mean? Like, that's just like, I love it. Such a badass line of dialogue to get from your female lead, like the first time she's ever in trouble. You know what I mean? And then to double down on that in the Origin of Obedience arc, when they're fighting, you know, in that little like under the bridge, and then all of a sudden Nobara gets sucked through a wall again, and fucking Megumi's like, Nobara, and she's like, I'll be fine. I'm gonna beat this motherfucker's ass. You do your thing in here and I'll be back. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, oh shit.
She was live, man. She was live.
Yeah, you know, so it's things like that, you know, that put Jujutsu Kaisen's characters at a 10 for me. And that's not even everything I could say about them, you know, like that's just for the sake of time, like my best examples right now. But
and you
characters are 10 easy.
You killed that shit. Yeah, this is the second easiest 10 I'm gonna give, because outside of the animation, the characters are, when you feel yourself giving so much of a fuck about a character that only had 2 episodes. I think about the guy that Yuji had to kill, the kid that Yuji had to kill after becoming his friend. He only had a couple. Junpei. He only had a few episodes, but those few episodes were so impactful to me that I was almost like, I almost shed a thug tear about his mom. Like I almost got blown back.
It's so dense. Yes, and the character writing is so dense. It's like where I feel like a lot of manga or a lot of anime want to play the long game with character development and progression and really putting a lot of work into the characters themselves, and they want you to see that development and progress over a long period of time. I'm sure we'll see that in Jujutsu Kaisen as well, but I feel like Akutami Gege understands these characters to such a degree that he's able to write them so densely in such a short amount of time without it feeling entirely like a character piece, with so much more story-driven narrative things happening in the background while the characters are being developed at such a good pace alongside of it. You know what I mean? It's very impressive how well it's done, you know?
It's so crazy how well you fit with how we look at anime, because again, we've rarely had guests on this show, okay? Yeah. And the reason being is, I'm not going to say this is the reason, but we just have a nice flow to how we do the show. everything you said about the characters and about the story and about the animation is everything that we feel amplified. It's exactly why this is exactly why we watch anime. This is exactly why we watch every weekly, well, not every seasonal weekly show and break it down just like this, because it's so important to us that we get this entertainment. And that's why we can't take shit like Black Clover. That's why we just can't take half-ass shit like God of High School. Like we just can't. We have to speak on it, man. And these characters, man, back to the characters.
Yes.
Gojo being the overpowered character, but again, like you said, him taking that trope of an overpowered character and flipping it and making sure that everybody in this fucking world knows how powerful Gojo is spectacular. Like there were some powerful characters in Naruto that people were afraid of, right? But they weren't scared like the fucking curses. I call them demons because they're all demons to me. Like the demons were of Gojo. As soon as he brought the veil down in that exchange arc, motherfuckers was like, I'm gone. I know, man.
They were talking good shit too until Gojo broke the barrier, and then he was like
I'm a peace out because I know when this motherfucker is here that it's over. And the fact that it only took him 30 minutes to kill that veil was like, I'm like, oh, this motherfucker is a demon.
With Gojo, I feel like Gojo is lightning in a bottle. You know what I mean? I feel, and maybe not lightning in a bottle, but maybe what it is it's just the first mangaka that really took the overpowered character archetype and said, how can I perfect this? You know what I mean? Because when you have an overpowered character on the protagonist side, especially that's at the level that Gojo is at, it's very easy if you're writing a campier story, you know, to just have them be the be all end all solution to like any conflict. You know what I mean? Because you obviously care a lot about this character if you made them the strongest one in the whole bitch. You know what I mean? So if you care about the character, you're probably going to want to use them a lot. But Akutami Gege has so much awareness of the medium and its history that they love this character of Gojo, or at least they wrote them in a way that implies that, and despite whatever they say in their, you know, in their editor or in their author's comments. But anyway, like as far as like Gojo as a character, we know that he's this force of nature in this world that has a very grounded power system. It's not a very overpowered situation like Ki, where any random old Joe could have the power to end any conflict if they wanted it enough. No, this is a very realistic, very grounded story where wanting it enough doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? So when you have a character like Gojo who can literally end any conflict with the snap of his fingers, like how do you write that in a way to where it's compelling? And the way that you do that is by giving them a personality like Gojo's, to where he's cynical, he's sarcastic, he does things for entertainment, like play into the concept that jujutsu sorcerers are understaffed. So you have to send your students out to do missions that adults should do because you're understaffed. Gojo should be there, but Gojo just decides, I'm going to go do something else instead. So you don't have me there. I'm in a different fucking country because I can teleport, and I'm dealing with something over here while you guys have to. You take him away from the situation so that it doesn't make sense that he doesn't win all of the conflicts. Not
to mention that they're having a similar situation like how My Hero Academia is doing. Like there's a singularity going on where the sorcerers in Jujutsu Kaisen are becoming stronger because it's a new generation. So like these first years are like outstanding because they've basically compiled so much power within themselves and over time that this is what is happening. It's a new generation. These people can't be held back any longer. Like he was trying to tell the head. It's like the new sorcerers are going to be amazing regardless of what you do. You can't keep holding them back.
And the whole fact that like strong sources of cursed energy raise the cursed energy of things around them inside of a certain proximity.
That's what makes the power system special.
So like Sukuna's fingers, you know, activating at all the way that they did in the first episode makes all the other fingers spring up and go, hold on, someone's eating us. Let's all find that motherfucker. And then, so because they're all invigorated, now the overall cursed energy pool that's available in Japan is now a bigger volume because these things are putting out more energy because they're invigorated and they're coming from a special grade source. So now the fucking like power increases that we see are all like relative to these special grade sources of energy. You know what I mean? So it just feels really good, you know, like when power increases in Jujutsu Kaisen, you know.
It's fantastic, man. It's fantastic. All right, do you have the averages of the scores?
So Everyone gave animation a 10. Sound design, Noxy gave it a 9. Polo a 9. I gave it a 10. Pacing, everyone gave it a 10. Plot, everyone gave it a 10. Characters, everyone gave it a 10. So Nox's overall rating is a 9.8 out of 10. Polo's overall rating is a 9.8 out of 10. My overall rating is a 10 out of 10. Putting us as a group at a 9.8 out of 10.
9.8.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's
You heard it.
I like that. I like that. Okay, so 9.10 is about where I am. That's about where I am. Even though it could easily be a 10 overall. Just some song choices was a little iffy for me personally, but definitely a 9.8 is one I can rock with.
No complaints.
All right, Tell, you want to hit us with a recap and we head out of here.
So we just finished Jujutsu Kaisen rating. Goodness, it's been a long time since we've done a rating. It was great to have Noxy on here for it. It's a 9.8 out of 10 for all of us. We had a break with a great song.
Hurricane.
What you think about that? Yeah, with Hurricane. Also, we had Get to Know Mic Check Waifu and / Project Manga with Nox. Anime character we hate the most. Who's your most hated anime character? We also have some great questions on Twitter. Thanks for hitting us with those. We'll get some more of those from you next week. Also, I got spoiled on Invincible on the timeline. Be careful on Twitter. Out there.
Facts.
We also had some recommendations for new manga readers. We talked about Death Note, Vinland Saga, Promised Neverland, One Punch Man, and My Hero Academia. We also asked some questions if you're going to give recommendations. And then, also talked about Phantom Seer catching the axe. Then Polo talked about the player that can't level up, solo leveling. And we also got another one of Nox's favorite, Ultra Heaven. I'll put that down so we make sure we get that one.
Facts.
Also, don't forget, you can join the book club on Patreon with patreon.com/Project Manga. We talked about what we're all reading right now, what makes manga so attractive. And Nox, thanks for coming on Mic Check Waifu. That's episode 94.
We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, you guys.
I am at Polo Born Flower on all social media.
I'm at King Telliano on all social media.
Nox.
I'm Nox at NoxEPM. Otherwise, Project Manga, everything, everywhere.
You can follow all of our social medias at Project Manga, of course, or Project Manga OFC.
That's right.
Mic Check Waifu on Twitter and at Mic Check Waifu on Instagram. And as always, Mic Check. And
You're now tuned into Mic Check Waifu